we officially start. And for those of you that are in and ready, just go ahead and turn your camera on. Go ahead and place your name and campus in the chat. Good evening to everyone. We have about 20 seconds before we officially start. Good evening again, and welcome to Community Week 1. So just housekeeping. As a reminder, whenever you log into a Zoom, just go ahead and just get in, in the custom of placing your name, your campus in the chat. And if it's not my Zoom, also include the professor's name as well. So I am Dr. Morton Ford, or either Dr. Ford, either will work. Welcome to Community. And so we'll go ahead and get started. Let me pull up our PowerPoint that we will cover here tonight. Also, remember your cameras must be on and you must be in view of your camera. And I will give that that rule out. I'll just repeat it several times. So in the event that you are not in front of your camera and you are here for the entire time, you are still considered as absent. Just as a reminder, these sessions are recorded and they are viewed by the attendance administrators. So what does that mean? These sessions are recorded and they're handed over. So they check and see who was on camera and who was not. They check and see if you put your name in the chat. In addition to that, make sure that your first and last name matches how it appears on Fortis's roster. That if you're going through a name change, wait until that name change until you actually post it on the Zoom. So where your name is listed on Zoom, make sure your first and your last name appears how it appears on Fortis's roster. Sometimes people have name changes, but if it has not been cleared through Fortis, just list it however you listed on the roster. Okay. All right. Let's see here. Pull this up. And just make sure that, I ask for responses sometimes. And just make sure that you're on mute if you're not talking to us as a group, because these sessions are recorded and we don't want it to show anything or, capture anything that, is not needed. Let's see here. All right. Hopefully everyone is doing well. Welcome to the April 2025 term. Sometimes me and this PowerPoint don't get along, but it's probably the user. But here we go. All right, so welcome. So what is online learning? There's really no difference other than we're just not all sitting in the same physical space, but we're in the same virtual space. So the same expectations of me and of you is still there. We just use internet and computers or iPads or whatever have you with your devices to facilitate the journey of learning. And so we do ask that you log in on time. And we'll talk about this once we get further into the PowerPoint about the time, how essential it is to log in on time. Usually the Zoom is open at least 10 minutes prior to start time. So that gives you enough time to log in and still finish up what you need to do and not be docked any points. The online instructor, we have interactions. We'll sometimes ask you to place information in the chat. We'll ask you to go to small groups to report back to the whole group and to share out. There's even a group activity during this term that you'll get a chance to work with your coworkers with. And so nevertheless, we do ask you to, do pretty much the same information, the same assignments as you were in brick and mortar. So the online courses includes weekly homework assignments and learning activities. There are 5 quizzes and 3 exams, and then the HESI exam. So the first quiz is next week. And then if you're not having a quiz, that means you're having an exam. And the classes are already pre-set up. So all of the content is there. There's no room for extra credit for anything. So every point counts. So each homework assignment, each quiz, each exam, just make sure that we do our best to prep and gain an understanding of the concept so we can do our very best, because what we have in there in the package is what it is. You are responsible to complete the required coursework every week. You will meet students from other Fortis colleges, And so what this right here is kind of referring to is, especially during HESI week, and there's some other weeks where some campuses have Kaplan. And if you don't know about it, that means that your campus is not taking that exam or does not have to go through that Kaplan review. During HESI week, just keep this in mind. You all are probably in 5 or 6 different campuses. When your HESI is scheduled or when you hear information about the HESI, ensure that you're following the guidelines for your campus. Just because I say, and I go to the Columbus campus, and remember you're on the Cincinnati campus or the Port St. Lucie campus, remember for HESI, you want to adhere to what is specific for your campus. Because we don't want you thinking that the exam is on one day and at a certain time, and it's actually not, because that's not what's going to happen for your campus. So we are, for each class, your instructor is the first line of contact. Make sure that you have Outlook Mail. If you are unable to or have not had Outlook Mail in the past, you need to send an email to your or contact your campus team. And it's just a matter of them, I think, gaining access to IT. I'm not sure the mechanism behind that, but you do need the Outlook Mail. Then, of course, you have the Canvas mail because that's part of that course, but you need Outlook mail because there's some things that are communicated to you from various people on your campus, different things, and it comes to your Outlook mail because those people don't have access to your Canvas mail. So make sure if you don't have Outlook, put that on your to-do list to gain access to your Outlook mail. So in the classroom, the Canvas classroom, your online instructor, I think that's what it's called. There is where our emails are posted. Dean Brown's information, her information is there as well. Our email, our phone. So just look there for our contact information. But I think there are very few of us that have the same name. So once you just start typing in our names, it'll pop up. But nevertheless, just go to that your online instructor information. We'll look at that once we actually look inside the classroom. So we will suggest ways for you to improve your performance in the course. So we do offer one-on-one tutoring. That can be via Zoom. It could be an email. You have a question about a concept. Hey, can we meet to talk about this? And it can be via Zoom, email, or over the phone. And sometimes it's not always about a concept. For example, one student, her calendar, she was taking 3 classes. And so just getting those classes and everything coordinated on her electronic calendar so that she could ensure that she met all of the requirements because she wanted to do the very best that she could. So that meeting was just helping her figure out her schedule. So sometimes it's not concepts, sometimes it's just thinking through all the different things that's required of you and just making sure we've thought about everything. So that meeting does not have to be about concepts, but it can be about the concepts. We will provide feedback through your grades. So a lot of times we communicate in the comment section on the assignment. So, but I think you get an alert when we put messages in there. So just be on the lookout and see if there's a message in the comment section on the assignment tab. And so we all are, well versed in the content areas that we're working in. As a matter of fact, probably more than the content areas that we're working in. So, but we are life learners. As a nurse, as a healthcare professional, no one knows everything, and we continue to learn things as we continue on in our career. So this is a professional setting. Communication should be respectful at all times. We can agree to disagree, but we don't ever want to be where we're not being respectful to each other. So a lot of times, you'll be in the smaller groups. Like there may be a difference of opinion, but we're healthcare professionals. And so just remember to be respectful. So of course, the about your instructor information that's on the Canvas module list is at the very top, and we'll look at that. And as we mentioned, we're the first line of contact. So remember, this is for any issue, not just connectivity and internet issues or computer issues. But if it's an issue to you, I think it's warranted that you let us know about it so that, we can let the campus dean and Dean Brown know, especially if it's going to affect you not doing your best in the course. So any issue, please reach out and let's talk about it and see what resources or what solutions are there for you. Professor Marvel, she is the course lead. So a lot of times, if there's an issue that's beyond our classroom, I will ask you to include Professor Marvel in that email because she is the course lead, and as well as Dean Brown. She's our National Dean of Online Nursing Instruction. And then, of course, if you don't know who your campus dean is, please find out because that is going to be your point of contact to give you that campus specific information. For example, we hope that, you all don't have a storm. I don't have a storm, but we know that that's happening now. And then, just things that there are different resources. Some campuses have online, on campus tutors for math, but they're the persons that can identify the resources that are specific to your campus. So get to know who your campus dean is. Put that on your to-do list. Put it on your to-do list. If you have any questions or concerns, put them in the chat and I'll stop periodically and check the chat. If you have not placed your name and campus in the chat, please do so. In addition to that, ensure that you are in front of the camera. These sessions are recorded and they're viewed by the attendance administrators. In the event that you need to step away from the camera because you may have to use the restroom, something might be going on, place a message in the chat. Do not send it out to everyone. Click on the little I think it says receiver tab, and then go down and find my name. Send it to me. Okay. So communication etiquette and inadequate. State your thoughts. We want to be courteous, positive, and like we said, respectful. We want to be mindful of how we express humorous or emotional statements because sometimes they can be misinterpreted. You really don't mean any harm by it, but it can be received as that. So we all have to be careful with just trying to bring humor to whatever it is, but let's just stick to the concept that's being discussed. Then we will lessen the chance of things being misinterpreted. We do want to be considerate of others' express experiences, feelings, and perspectives. Use proper language. Do not use slang because we don't have a dictionary that tells us what all the different things mean. The example that I always give, I never forget when I realized what tea was. You may call me old and foggy, but I was like, what in the world? Didn't know that it meant, gossip. So, but when they were using that word, had no idea. So, let's just stick to the proper language and titles, and therefore it lessens the chance of me getting confused about what we're really talking about. So let's just use proper language. When you are communicating with your patients, I know you all have probably started clinical rotations or either clinical observations. We do talk to our patients, our participants, residents, or clients, what setting you're in is what you call them. We do talk in lay terms, but we still do not use slang. We talk in terms that they can understand, but we don't use slang. And of course, we don't type in all caps. So if you're sending me an email or a text message, please don't put them in all caps. It gives the expression that, that we're yelling. So the online courses have specific start and end times. Your classes are scheduled on a specific day with a start and end time. These are going to talk about that in a couple of more slides here. These are mandatory live sessions, just as your campus classes are. We only meet one day a week. So if you miss one day, that counts as 7 days of missing. So if you miss 2 days, and it's on another slide too, so I repeat this again, that's 14 days. You're at risk for being dropped from the class automatically. It's just something that the system picks up. So make sure that you are logging in on your at the specific start time. As I mentioned earlier, the Zoom is usually always open at least 10 minutes prior to time. So that gives you time to log in, get situated, and still be on camera at the start time. Course activities can include, we have discussion questions. You all will have a group project, and then, we just randomly assign, but it helps you to get in that mode of you're going to be a nurse leader working at a long-term care facility. You may be that charge nurse. And so you're going to be overseeing and coordinating patient care. And so that's an activity. Of course, it's content specific, but it does get you in the the mood or the mode to start to begin to work with other people that you might not know. You will have papers, case studies, quizzes, and exams. Let me go to this paper thing here. Hear me well. So you've been in college for a while now. And so some activities or some assignments, they're kind of maybe similar. Maybe the topic may be similar. So if you have previously submitted a paper for the exact same assignment or an assignment that was similar, you want to make sure that you go in and revise, paraphrase, ensure that you have cited in text inside of the paper that you cited properly. Because what's going to happen if you've already submitted that paper, your plagiarism score is going to more than likely be 100%, which is something that can go on your record because plagiarism is against academic integrity. So again, if you have previously turned in the same paper, and this is for any class, and if it's a similar assignment, you want to make sure that you're using the latest evidence-based information. So you want to stay within those 5 years. So make sure that those references that you're using are within that 5-year mark. Then you want to go back in and just make sure, get that rubric out. Make sure that you're answering the questions that are on that rubric that you're following. If it says you need 2 paragraphs about tomatoes, and if you don't have the 2 paragraphs about tomatoes, first of all, don't turn it in. Because if you don't have them, then you're not going to get your points. And so just make sure that you're doing your very best work. So those papers, if you've already turned it in, to turn it in, it's going to ding you as 100% plagiarism. Go back and revise. You may want to look at some other sources and make sure you cite them properly. Discussion boards. This is nothing new right here. The initial post should be made on Wednesday. So Wednesday and Sunday. So Wednesday is your initial post, and then you should respond to 2 peers by that Sunday, midnight on that Sunday. Due dates are according to the syllabus week and posted in the course schedule. So this is week 1, and then week 2, week 3. So look at your calendar. So Wednesdays are our date. If you're going to stay in this course, Wednesday is going to be the date. So everything that initial post is that Wednesday. And then the 2 peer responses on that Sunday. Academic integrity. All incidences of academic dishonesty and violations of academic integrity will be disciplined. Such acts cannot be listed exhaustively on this slide. So cheating, if you think about it, get it out your head. Please do not give voice to it. Because if you say it to somebody, it's going to be captured somewhere. I don't know where at, but it's captured. And to protect you, the content, your patient, your future patients, then we have to act upon it. So no cheating. Just push that thought out. Don't even let it enter in. Plagiarism. That's similar or the same assignment that you have previously submitted. It's going to show up as 100%. I already asked, please rework it. Submission of the work of another person for credit. Even if you are using, we give examples of a lot of times of how things should be, like the products, your paper and different assignments. So you might have that paper, you may have even copied and pasted so that you could be looking at things together, not that you're trying to keep or plagiarize, but make sure that if you're using it as an example, make sure you remove that, because a lot of times when you copy and paste and don't remove it correctly, the names of who you that example that you're using is still there. So then it for sure is going to be flagged for plagiarism. Okay. So submission of work of another person for credit or failure to properly cite references inside your paper. If you have, it says 5 references, you have them on your reference page. Make sure that you cited those inside of the paper. Even though you paraphrase, still cite the references. And then that decreases your plagiarism score because you're giving credit to where you really got that information from, because it's not new information that you've created. It's information and understanding that you've gained from reading that source. So copying the work of others, allow another student to copy from the student. Unauthorized use of notes of materials and exams. Please do not post. You're not supposed to be capturing screenshots of anything anyways, but posting things to websites, Facebook, and all those different places, that is unauthorized use of notes and materials. This goes against academic integrity. Forging or altering assignments, taking someone's name off and putting your name on. Unpermitted collaboration, giving or reviewing or receiving aid on exams or other academic assignments under circumstances that are not reasonable. So just be careful with the assistance that you're getting. Allowing others to copy or use work that is not your own, and then providing answers for graded assignments to others. Just gonna pause right here, see if we got any comments or questions. Okay, making sure. So ensure, again, make sure that you're on camera. I will hate for you to be here and counted absent because you're not on camera, because that is what will happen. So make sure in the event that you can't be on camera, you're just walking away for a few minutes, place a message in the chat. All right. Place your name and campus in the chat as well. Go. So the American Nurses Association Code of Ethics for Nurses. The Code of Ethics serves the following purpose. It's an expression of nurses' own understanding and of our commitment to society. You know, we're signing up to be nurses. We're saying that we're going to take care of patients. We will provide justly care. We will be culturally competent. We will, provide what is needed for our patients. It is a succinct statement of ethical values, obligations, duties, and professional ideas. Nurses individually and collectively. It is the profession's non-negotiable ethical standard. Person doesn't have insurance, we still provide that best care. A person comes back in, we work in the emergency room, person comes back in repeatedly for whatever the condition is, we still provide that best care. Person has insurance, we still provide the best care we can for. Okay. All right. So sites that promote cheating, you all, there is someone somewhere that sits and monitor this. Of course, all the sites are not going to be listed on here. But just know those sites that do not promote honor, ethics, or integrity, stay off of them. Don't even click to see what's in there. These sites are being monitored. No, you won't probably receive an email or anything saying, hey, we saw you were on that site today at noon. Nope, probably won't. But there is someone somewhere that monitors this. Being found on these sites will place you on a heightened monitoring of your work for academic integrity violations. Referencing these sites or submitting work found on these sites will result in a 0 for the assignments. This may be enough to cause the course failure. A second incident involving these sites will result in course failure. Utilizing these sites, hosting and downloading will put you at risk for being dismissed from the program. Your campus and upper administration will be involved. If they are not on your list of resources at the top of your canvas, they have resources there. If they're not there, just don't even click and use them. Only use what is there. That Studco, Course Hero, Stuvia, it's too many to list. So just stay away from those sites. Don't even click around in there to see what they have. Okay, late work policy. Make sure that you hear this. Late work policy. Of course, you want to submit your work on time because it can be your best work. It can be the assignment that you can get all your points. But in the event that something comes up, you need to communicate prior to that due date, letting me know, sending an email, letting me know what is going on and that your work might be late. So get that prior approval. Have to contact the instructor if you're going to be late. So we give you that approval. What happens? 1 to 7 days, please turn your work in, but know that that best paper or assignment is still going to receive a 10% reduction. So we have the due dates. We have the time frame where assignments are open. Feel free to turn your assignments in early. We know it's getting into spring break, summertime. You may have plans of things with your families, or something, may just be going on at work that week. You may have a conference or whatever. Feel free to always turn your work in before that due date. There's a time frame that those assignments are open because every point matters. If you get the prior approval and your work is 8 or more days late, it will result in a 0 for the assignment. In the event that you turn in your work late and you do not have prior approval, that will still result in that 0 for that assignment. Because in order for that assignment to be graded and it's late, you must get the prior approval. Wait, too many. Attendance. So listen up. Make sure that you are in your classes, all of your classes, at the time that is set forth for you to be there. Attendance will be only recorded only during the assigned live session time. If I have 3 courses throughout the week, but you're assigned to Wednesday night, you will only get marked present for the class that you've been assigned to. Attendance is taken during the live session. Make sure that your name, first and your last name, appears how it appears on Fortis' roster. I know a lot of times when we logging in on different devices, it'll log in as a device name. So you need to change that name to your name. Make sure you place your name and campus in the chat. To be counted as present in the class, sign in with their full name. Be on camera the whole time. Make sure the camera is not pointing toward the ceiling. And make sure that the lighting is such so that we can at least recognize who you are. Anyone at work or driving will be removed from the session. Anyone not coming on camera after being asked to will be removed from the session. And of course, you'll be marked absent for the class. Faculty will verify students' time in by reviewing the login and logout times on Zoom. Zoom timestamps everything. In the event that you're in the waiting room, that's fine. That's part of the class. Sometimes, especially like on exam day, we're having to look at your ID and things like that. So it'll be a little bit slower getting in, but as long as you are in that waiting room, that's okay. Attendance missed is recorded in 15-minute increments. So if you're late 1 to 15 minutes, that equals 15 minutes of your time being docked from you. So if you're 2 minutes late, 3 minutes late, it still equals 15 minutes. Anyone without posting attendance 14 days in a row, remember we only meet 1 day a week. So 2 classes equals 14 days. And it says in a row will be dropped without notification. It's something in the system that automatically drops you. So if something's going on, you have an issue, something's going on, just please communicate, and so that the appropriate procedures can be taken in the event that something's going to prevent you from being in class 14 days in a row. Remember, there is no makeup for missed attendance. Attendance is taken daily in the class. We told you that part. And it's turned over back to the registrars. And I say the attendance administrator. So the attendance roster, what you're placing your name and your campus in, your Zoom time, and the recording, all these things are turned over. So just make sure that you're on camera, that you're placing your name and your first name and your last name as it should in the chat and on your screen. Early departures, tardies, class cuts will be recorded in those quarter-hour increments. If you're having connectivity issues, just keep logging back in, send a message to myself, don't send it to everyone in the chat, having connectivity issues, but just keep logging back in. In the event that something's going on, connectivity issues, and I lose Zoom, just stay right there. I'm going to log back in on another device, and hopefully I can log back in. Sure, sometimes the weather does what it wants to do, but still communicate that if you have something going on. So a period of less than 15 minutes will be counted as a quarter-hour absence. Like I just said, if you're late 1 minute, 2, 3, it still equals 15 minutes. So if you're late 16, 17, 18 minutes, that equals 30 minutes. Attendance records are maintained by the registrar as part of your academic record. And so as that plagiarism, it becomes part of your academic record. So just make sure that we're taking those suggestions that I've given out already. You've already completed the same assignment or a similar assignment. Students with chronic absenteeism in an excess of 20% of the scheduled hours for a course may receive a failing grade for that course or a reduced grade for that course. So what this is saying is someone can fail a course by just missing, not being in class on time or being absent. So how would a grade be reduced? That 20%, that amount of time, you can have a B. If it knocks you down to a C, that's less than that 78%, then you can actually receive a fail for the course. Okay. Students who are absent more than 20% of the scheduled time will receive a full letter grade deduction at the end of the term. So make sure that you're keeping up, just log in on time. And if you have some type of, we'll talk about that too, if you have some type of conflict where your clinicals will conflict with any of your classes, hopefully you have looked at that and did that request that Dean Brown asked you all to do. I don't think we have any classes that overlap with this one. And if we do, I'm sure we would have been notified by now, because there have been instances where the classes overlap, but we knew that early on and we were able to work that out. And so, but that didn't go against, your scheduled time, your login time. The online office will pull the attendance weekly. They pull it like tonight, they'll pull it in the morning. They pull it at least weekly. A student who is at 5% scheduled time absent will receive an email through your campus view notifying you of such. 10% you will be required to meet with me and then I think this is the course lead and then me. 15% you will be required to meet with the campus administration also. The level of intervention will be reliant upon the amount of time missed, and a student may not receive all levels of warning prior to missing the 20%. So what is that saying? You get this notification at 5%. You might not get another notification that you're at the 20%. So again, if you're missing, please just send an email or something and saying what's going on. And then you want to stay in touch and look and see what's going on in Campus View, because this 20%, you might not get a notice. So there might be, you may have identified, and hopefully you've identified some other steps that have helped you to be successful thus far. But we do know reviewing the work each week, go ahead. If you submitted the work for this week, go ahead and start looking and seeing what is the content for next week, so that you can have an idea of the assignments that are expected. Look at that rubric, get an idea. Okay, well, this is what I need to be doing. Okay, well, I have a question about this, and that way you can go ahead and send that communication. And so we can gain some clarity about what's expected. You want to complete the interactive lessons each week. Attend the live sessions weekly to get a better understanding of the concepts. The live sessions are mandatory. We only meet 1 day a week. Carefully read the directions and rubrics to all assignments before starting them. And once you finish them, look at whatever it is that you're trying to turn in. Look at that rubric. Grade yourself. Bullet point 1, it says I needed 2 paragraphs on tomatoes. Ooh, I only have 1. Don't turn that assignment in. Go back and get your second paragraph. And so, because if it's not there, if you don't see it, I'm not going to see it either. So that's not your best work, and you will not receive all the points because you can't, because it says 2 paragraphs on tomatoes and you only have 1. So commit to completing all of your assignments completely. Every point matters. Remember, there's no rounding and there's no extra work built in because the courses, the way they have it packaged, everything is in there already. You want to complete all assignments, your papers, your CJ. We don't do CJ Sims in here as a grade, but for sure your NCLEX questions and your discussion boards. Please complete all. Completing these assignments, it will help you solidify concepts being taught. So all of the required readings, the assignments, everything should start help you make connections with the content and being able to do your best on your quizzes and your exams. Of course, you want to study and you want to complete your quizzes and exams. We will have exam reviews. We have already have the dates and everything that's posted. At a minimum, we hope that you attend and you have questions that we can answer for you. But at a minimum, commit to at least going back through your classroom recordings as well as the different live exam reviews because we share the links. So at a minimum, make sure that you go through all that information, content, required reading, classroom recordings, and the live exam reviews recordings. You do want to log into class at least 45 times just to stay connected about what's going on. Usually we post on Sunday, but then you never, if something comes up, I think Dean Brown posted a message yesterday or today. And so if you hadn't logged in, then you didn't see that message. So just make sure you're logging in or making sure that your alerts are on, excuse me, so that you can get those notifications as they're posted. But just log in 4 to 5 times during the week. Just click and see what's going on, if anything is new. You do want to review the course announcements. So in those announcements that we post weekly, we have, we kind of refocusing you just so that you can narrow down what you're reviewing for that week. We even have recordings in there and different resources, making sure that you utilize all of those resources. Everything will help you make those connections and have a bet so that you can gain a better understanding of the concepts. And then if you don't, then those are the things that you're going to ask questions about. You want to submit all assignments on the week when they are due, including your discussions. That Wednesday, two peer responses by that Sunday at midnight. Towards the end of the week, go ahead and start looking at the next week. Remember, you can turn things in early. They don't have to be turned in directly on that due date. It can be turned in the day before. And for sure, do not procrastinate. I tell you, it seems like we have all the time to do things, but then all of a sudden that time just goes away. So take it from me, don't procrastinate. So of course, stay in regular contact. If there's an issue is whatever you think, whatever's concerning to you, whether or not it's connectivity, internet, something going on, please communicate that so we can identify solutions. Have a reliable internet connection in your computer and your laptop. The storm is brewing, then our internet connection might not be reliable, but still communicate that. And we'll remind you of this as well. If you have obtained or gotten a new computer since last term, you want to, when we put out the practice exam for ExamSoft, make sure that you complete it because you want to ensure that your computer specs, your specifications matches what ExamSoft requirement is, because in the event that you don't do that prior to trying to download the actual exam, then you're going to run into problems. Because you would just think all computers and it'll be okay, but you have to have those certain specifications. So if you use the computer last term, you should be okay, but still just do that practice exam just to ensure so that you will not have that unneeded stress on exam day. So you want to maintain a schedule for completing your schoolwork. Like the example I gave earlier, student just needed help just trying to plot everything on the calendar, work, play, home, and of course school, just trying to think it through. Some things you have to delete, rearrange, or just put on pause. We go through the term pretty quickly, 12 weeks. You do want to identify a quiet place that's free from distractions to complete your work and also to take your exams. So in the event that, you have a dog that always comes up to you, especially when everything is nice and quiet, you may want to have a dog sitter. That dog may want to have a play date at the neighbors, or you may want to take that exam on campus, just so that you are free from distractions, because you would wouldn't believe how things do distract us and make us lose our focus. So be thinking about, you have your exam dates out there. Be thinking about what you need to do for exam day. If you need to have that exam proctored, there is a 72-hour requirement window where you have to notify campus administration. And we'll talk about that here in just a moment. You want to read all assignment directions carefully. NCLEX questions. You need to upload the PDF. Do not do a screenshot of NCLEX questions. That's for CJ Sims, but we don't have any CJ Sims in this course. So you've already logged into Canvas. You've opened one of your online courses, hopefully all of them by now. You clicked on the instructor information tab. You can write down that information, but just at least know where it is. We'll look at it here in just a moment. You want to print or save the course syllabus just to keep yourself on track. You want to look at that syllabus, particularly for the detailed course outline, and then sign the acknowledgement. You want to confirm, listen up, you all, confirm that you have the correct textbook and edition. Usually the textbook name doesn't change, but you want to make sure that you have the correct edition. We'll look at that too. Because what will happen is we will reference page 5 in chapter 3, for example. And if your edition is incorrect, you turn to page 5 in chapter 3. First of all, it might not even be chapter 3. It may be a whole different chapter. So just make sure, and it doesn't happen often, but sometimes the incorrect edition will be in your resources. And that's just a matter of us notifying campus administration and, submitting that help ticket. They're wonderful at helping getting those things pushed through and updated. So questions, missing something, contact your instructor. That's me. Let me stop sharing. I'll pause and see if we have any questions in the chat here. If not, we will press on. Okay. Nope. Seeing none, we'll keep on moving. Again, just make sure, as a reminder, these sessions are recorded and they're reviewed by the attendance administrators. Ensure that you're visible in the camera. In the event that you have to step away from the camera, place a message in the chat to myself. That's why you're not in front of the camera. So come to class prepared to discuss concepts. Usually we have activities, we have groups, small groups, share out once we come from the small group. And so just come prepared. And then that helps you to gain a better understanding, a stronger foundation of what the concepts is. So when you are in that clinical setting, when you take that NCLEX, when you take that HESI, you have a greater chance of answering and responding correctly because we have discussed the concepts. Even if this is a safe place. So this is where you might get answered incorrectly, but we're not going to leave you hanging. We will correct you as well. So this is a safe place. So, but come prepared to at least discuss the concepts. Have knowledge of what the concepts are for that week. You want to attend additional review sessions. We have the dates and times posted. There are, I think, 4 of us in this, 4, either 5 different professors. And so the review sessions, dates and times are already there. You probably can't attend all. If you can, that's great. If not, at least commit to reviewing classroom recordings and those live exam review recordings. Meet with us to discuss those difficult concepts. During our office, we have office hours. If that doesn't work for you, send that email. We can do an email exchange. We can talk on the phone. Schedule tutoring sessions when needed. We are here to help you. If you're having technical difficulties, let us know as well, and we need to contact technical support. They are really awesome about responding to us and getting us on the right track. So other learning activities, weekly review sessions, not mandatory, but highly encouraged. This is just that meeting one-on-one if you need to. Of course, that will be outside of classroom time. So a lot of times we meet before. Some students want to meet the day of class. I usually go ahead and log in earlier, so we can always go to a breakout room and meet before the class time actually starts. I do want to encourage you to review the exam reviews of the other instructors, because first of all, hearing the same thing over and over again, even if we're not trying to remember it, we just automatically start remembering things. But hearing the same thing in a different way, it helps us to gain a stronger, a better understanding of the concept. So, of course, when you log into those review sessions, put your name, campus, and your professor's name in the chat as well. Attendance is taken. Those attendance rosters are shared with the attendance administrators, and this helps us help you in the case you start to struggle. We talked about the one-on-one, and then all instructors, no matter what class you're in, tutoring is offered. Students that participate actively in these two interventions tend to have higher testing scores, as many as 20 points higher, because it does strengthen you what you already know. So no matter how you see it, how it's asked, if it's asked in the negative or the positive, you're still able to answer because you have an understanding of that concept. Okay, so let's look at the grading component. So your total is 100%, but your unit exams, your quizzes, and the HESI makes up 80%. And even within that, they do weigh differently. Then the other 20% comes from your discussion questions, your papers, your NCLEX questions, your HESI case studies, and that HESI prep assignment. That's what makes up that other 20%. And of course, they weigh differently. Nevertheless, every point matters because remember, out of this 80%, these key graded assignments, you must have that 78% without rounding. In order for this score to be valid, and in order for the 20% of the homework to be counted, this must be at least 78% without rounding. In addition to that, the homework, it must be the 78% without rounding as well. Without rounding, even if it's 77.77, that's not 78% without rounding. So we do the grades that you will see, weeks 1 through 5, homework will be off. Then week 6, we come in, we turn on homework grades, just so that you can see the impact of your homework scores. But remember the previous slide, if these key graded assignments does not equal that 78% without rounding, then that homework grade is not valid. Then week 8, the scores are turned back off. It allows students to see their key graded assignments to make an informed decision. I think you all decide something in week 8 in reference to moving forward or discussing what other options that you have. Homework scores will stay off until after the HESI exam is remediated. So HESI week is week 11. Put that on your schedule. Put a star by it or highlight that week. Your HESI's exams, some of them are not during the time that your class regularly meets. So HESI exams are not during this time of night. So on Wednesdays, on week 11, we don't meet for class. Your HESI will be taken, it may even be on a different day, depends on your campus. So just go ahead and highlight and just be kind of proactively thinking about everything for week 11. I may have to change my work schedule. I may have to get someone to, to house sit for me. Just depends on how that HESI schedule comes out for your campus. You take the HESI week 11. You must complete, it should be on the next slide. It's not on the next slide. You must complete the required remediation. It's on one of these slides. We'll get to it. The required remediation in order for that grade to remain valid. Okay. So your combined score on all quizzes, which I just said, unit exams and specialty exams in the course must be that 78% or above, not 77.77, before any credit for the completed homework is given. A minimum passing grade of 78% is required for successful completion of the course after the homework scores are added. So prior to homework being turned on, the person had the 78%, but then they didn't do their very best on the homework assignments. So once those scores are turned on, and if that score is less than 78%, then there is no passing of the class. So you must have that at least a minimum of a 78% with both of those, that 80% and that 20%. So with all of this, at least a 78%. So go ahead and get your 2 devices. Make sure you have your chargers for your 2 devices. Put it on your to-do list. Make sure you have your ID. You will need your IDs. Laptops, run the exam. The phone to be on Zoom because remember, you have to be in view and your computer must be in view for those exams. Be sure that they're fully charged. But, sometimes those charges, I'm not sure what's the rhyme or reason to it. Sometimes those charges will fall quickly. So make sure you just have your charger. So you don't have to get up and be rummaging through things and trying to find that charger. Just go ahead and get it in place. So therefore, you don't lose your focus on the exam and you're doing your best. So 2 devices, make sure you have your chargers. If you go off camera while in the exam, you will receive a 0 for the exam. Ensure that you have disabled anything. You know how like the TVs, they don't pick up any activity or any movement or motion. And it usually asks you the question, hey, are you still there? Are you listening? Your computer doesn't do that, I don't think. It just automatically turns the camera off. Make sure you disable that. Anything that will not allow you to receive messages, like I'm sending you a message in the chat saying, hey, are you okay? Anything that will not allow you to receive messages from me and that will turn your camera off, you want to disable those things. If you go off camera while in the exam, you receive a 0 for the exam. No excuses will be accepted. Quizzes are part of your key graded assignments. They are completed in class. They must be proctored. So usually we complete those at the beginning of class. Maybe the first, I know next week and maybe week 3, we'll kind of take them toward the end just so that you can get in that mode. But we'll give them at the beginning of the class so we can see the concepts that you still are not so strong on so that we can make sure that we go over those. But quizzes are designed to be given at the beginning of class to allow us to have insight into the concepts that you may still struggle with. All right. So there's only one attempt at the quiz. Quizzes are timed at 15 minutes and they all have their 10 questions. Be sure to submit your quiz once it's completed. Make sure you get that submission notice. Even with your exam, do not close up those devices until we ensure that that exam has been fully submitted. Because if you get lost somewhere in the clouds and then we spend time trying to get it and find it. So make sure you get that confirmation before closing up any devices. Quizzes taken off camera, meaning that you're not being proctored, you will receive a grade of a 0. So for example, if some upgrade comes through the course, the Canvas course, and it puts that your quiz is ready to be given tonight after we leave class, the question you need to ask yourself, well, hold on, it's not time for my quiz, and I'm not being proctored. Don't pay that quiz any attention. You must be proctored. So even if you get some type of notification, the question is, am I being proctored? Is it someone here overseeing and watching you while you take the quiz? If not, don't take that quiz. Quizzes cannot be made up for any reason. Stay in communication if you have something going on. Okay, exams will be scheduled and given through ExamSoft. You all know that. Log into the Zoom on your 2 devices, your IDs. You do want to sign into ExamSoft according to the instructions. Read the directions carefully. Again, the exam when you're ready. Remember, it is time. And then once you submit that exam, you will wait till you get that confirmation screen. And then be sure to log out of that testing site. Be sure both your computer and your second device are fully charged and that you have that charger before you come into class. Because what's going to happen if you need it, you're going to get distracted. Remember, you're being time. You're going to lose time trying to go and find the device. Make sure you have your ID. Find the charger. Make sure you have 2 devices, 2 chargers, and your ID. And if you're going to use a dry erase board, make sure you have that as well. Just go to have those things lined up so you don't lose focus. You are only allowed 1 attempt. You cannot stop and pause and then resume. If there are technical difficulties, please stop. Place a message in the chat. There's usually 2 of us in the classroom anyway on exam day. Please notify us via chat. Do not send it out to the whole class. Wait on a response. If we're slow responding, that means we're probably talking to someone else. If you're having technical difficulties, stop the exam and notify the instructor. These exams are timed, so still pay attention to your time. And like I mentioned, have the two chargers because you just never know with these devices. Then you're spending time trying to find that charger, or run out of time. Anyone with accommodations needs to notify the instructor at the beginning of every term. So send that notification via mail. Just because you had an accommodation last term does not mean that we know about it this term. Notifications less than 10 days before an exam may not be granted in time because there is a process, there's paperwork, there's documentation, there's a process to the accommodation. So make sure if that's something that you need or that needs to be renewed, go ahead and start that conversation with your campus dean. They will have the paperwork and the instructions and the application and everything that's needed. If you think you need accommodation, start that conversation because we want you to do your best. So there are different types of accommodations, but just talk with your campus dean and see what is available and what the requirement process is to get those accommodations granted. Exams are held during your scheduled class time. So take our exams during class time. The exceptions only with written approval by the faculty and also Dean Brown. So what does that mean? Remember I mentioned earlier, being free of distractions in the event or, something else is going on and you need to take that exam, on campus, the day of the exam. And so a 72-hour notice is required. That email needs to go to me, Dean Brown, and your campus dean. We want you to do your best, but we need at least 72 hours to find someone, a place, because usually those rooms, they're all accounted for. So we need to find a person that will proctor that exam for you and a place. So a 72-hour notice prior to the exam date is required in order for the exam to be proctored on campus. Okay. And in the event that you need to step away and use the restroom, please do so, but just come on back. We're going to push through and get through all of this content here. Exams are Zoom proctored, so we meet on at our regular class time. 2 devices, 2 chargers, your ID, your dry erase board, and your marker. You must show your complete testing environment, that 360 view, including desktops, walls, all sides of the computer, chair, floor, and testing area. Show your ears if they're covered. Must have an erasable whiteboard or screen protector, that little clear sheet of paper, because you can easily write on that with one of those dry erase markers and wipe it off. It's easy. So remember, dry erase boards or that screen protector, for the most part, we think about math. But you can, do jot noting on that. It has to come empty now. But during your exam, if you're thinking about a concept and you're trying to just need to refocus, you can actually, write on that dry erase board or that screen protector. You don't need a calculator because there's a calculator inside of ExamSolve. If a tester has religious exceptions, please ask to discuss the issue with us. Appropriate accommodations will be granted. Move this little bar out the way. Do not assume instructors know the individual requirements. So please communicate. Just communicate that with us. We want you to do your best, and that's what we're here for. Contact your instructor with issues that may prevent you from being successful on the exam before the exam. Don't work your way through the whole exam and say, I had connectivity issues. I had something going on with my child. After you hit that submit button, please don't do that. Communicate that before. Contacting us with issues after you have submitted the exam has removed any ability of us to work with you. We are here for you to be successful, to guide you along the way. Communicate requires you to communicate before you are not successful. Please communicate. And that's any issue you are, not just connectivity. So this slide right here just have you to look at, when you look at one view, you have this, and when you click it, the actual instructions and everything pops out. So that's just what this slide is showing you. So again, technical issues. Do not continue or try to continue if you're having technical issues. Notify me immediately. We are in the room. Raise your hand or send a message in the chat. Let us know at that moment in time. Things faculty administration will do, we'll verify the issues by reviewing the law. We review the number of times that you stop viewing the testing site. You can see how much time you're allowed it and how many questions you actually have seen. Sometimes it will ask for a resume code or reaccess code. Just let us know whatever you're seeing on that screen, and then we'll give you instructions as what you need to do. Things we will not do. Allow a retake on an exam due to technical problems or other physical or emotional issues when majority of all the questions have been answered by the student or time has run out. Any issue, technical, physical, emotional, let me know before the exam. I'd rather us have to get permission to reschedule within our 7-day frame. You know, I've gotten up on Sunday mornings, Saturday mornings, Sunday evenings, just so that you could do your best, because life happens. No one's exempt from that. And so if you're having an issue, technical problem, physical, emotional, please communicate that. Dean, send an email to Dean Brown, myself, the campus dean, so we can see what the solutions are for you. So, of course, you know, the special exams are proctored in a proctored environment, proctor you in campus. There's only one attempt for the HESI. So we're going to look here in a few minutes at HESI prep assignment. You need to open it up tonight for sure by the morning. That HESI prep assignment are all the topics that are on the HESI. While we might not cover all those topics in detail, you might see those topics on the HESI. So that's what that HESI prep assignment is. Not only homework, it is preparing you for that exam in week 11. And we will go over this again. The instructions for completing that assignment. It's a exhaustive. It is a detailed assignment. It is not something that you can complete in 2 or 3 days, but it is an assignment that you need to be looking at and looking at the concepts and making sure that you can address each concept with API in mind, where API might not apply to each one of them, but if you keep API in mind as you look at each concept, then it will help you to be able to identify, to respond positive or negative, answer correctly, no matter how you see the concept being asked about. For geriatrics, you all know you all do have the 2 attempts on that. So you will have an assigned date and time for that exam. Remember, it's not doing class time, not doing this class, your night classes. So HESIs are usually not given unless something new happens this term. They're usually not given this time of night. So you already got that week marked, but your schedule is going to look a little different. Of course, that exam counts of 20% of that 80%. The benchmark is 900. We have had the equivalent score 99.99 several times, and this just his last term. So putting that work in, going ahead early on, looking at that HESI prep assignment, being involved, you can reach that, you can attain that score. But nevertheless, remediation is mandatory. So that person, those several people that had those 99.99, if they did not complete that 1 hour, at least one, you can do more, at least, this is a minimum. So if you score a 751, a minimum of 4 hours is required in order for that HESI score to remain in the grade book. So remediation is mandatory to receive your HESI score. Remediation consists of completing 100% of the remediation time. You are supposed to do 2 hours. Doing an hour and a half is not completing 100% of the remediation time. Everything is time spent. Sometimes it does not populate you all the materials to look at. But remember, you are trying to provide that best care you can for your patient. You are trying to sit for NCLEX one time, get out of the course. So just make sure, just look at the content. I'll just click some different packages, because it just adds to and makes your foundation stronger. So time should be spent over all the concepts with the learning gaps, because usually that's where it will populate the packets for you, those where they have identified learning gaps for you. And in this scale, we will actually post this closer to week 11. So you will have that to refer to. Remediation packets are to be submitted by 1 a.m. on that Monday of week 12. Failure to complete that 100% of remediation will result in that HESI score being not valid. It turns into a 0. So exam security, we talked about you having your ID badge. You need it for clinical. Go ahead and get your ID badge. Put that on your to-do list if you do not have it. Just make sure you just have that with you. 2 chargers, 2 devices, your ID, your dry erase board, and your marker. You must be on camera at all times. You have to be in view and your computer has to be in view, not the front view. It should be from the side. Make sure you have your 2 devices. Your full face must be visible. You need to show your ID. Failure to show photo ID or not being fully visible at any point may result in the exam and or course failure. So contact the instructor if you have any problems or if you would just like some additional help. We talked about getting the schedule together, refocusing, talking about concepts, all of that. Don't be afraid to reach out. If I don't know the answer, don't worry. You want to ask for assistance. Professor Marvel, Dean Brown, your campus dean, but don't not talk about it or bring that to my attention if there's an issue or a concept or something that that's not clear for you. So planning your time, like I mentioned early on, get that syllabi, get all of your syllabi for your classes. This might be your only course. Still, look at that. Look at your homework schedule. Look at your clinical schedule. Just kind of go ahead and plot things on there so you can see what's doable, because we do have responsibilities, homework, and so forth. And then you want to start prioritizing things. You may have to delete some things for this term. You may have to put some things on pause or just delay them. You do want to identify the amount of prep time for each assignment. The HESI prep assignment, you need to open it up, start looking at it no later than tomorrow. It is a huge assignment. Not only that, it actually prepares you for the HESI that's in week 11. So if you're waiting till week 10 to complete that assignment, then you haven't been prepping for the HESI. So then you won't be as prepared for the HESI. Complete required readings, review and follow instructions for each assignment. And then just some assignments require a certain title. Make sure you're just following what the instructions actually tell you to do. This slide right here just has you to just kind of look at week 4. This is week 4, so that you can pull over what your syllabus say to your actual calendar. You might want to have an electronic calendar and also a paper calendar, whatever works for you. We talked about the late work policy. Again, late work will not be accepted without prior approval from the instructor. Even if you contact me on Tuesday and you say, hey, got this going on. I know this assignment is due. My discussion question is due Wednesday. It looks like, I may be, 30 minutes late, turn it in an hour late or a day late. Still go ahead and communicate and get that prior approval. You might end up still turning it in on time, but still you have followed what the procedure is so that in the event that you are late, it can be graded. And then you can, at a minimum, get that 10% deduction. Okay, let me go back. Late work will not be accepted without prior written approval from the instructor. Approved late work submitted by the student will be graded along with other weekly submissions for the next grading period. Instructors complete grades a week by Tuesday midnight. So don't forget, in the event that you communicate and you get the prior approval to turn week 3 assignment in late, that doesn't change the next week's. Week 4 assignments are still due week 4. So because you're late on week 3 assignment, it does not push week 4 assignment back to week 5 and then week 4 assignment back to week 6. No, everything else is still due. Those other due dates do not change. So, okay, the purpose of the NCLEX practice exam is to prepare students to sit for the actual NCLEX licensure exam. So at a minimum, make sure that you, for the assignments, complete the correct number of questions that is required. You can retake those as many as you can. Commit to not turning a score that's less than 78%. So besides your assignment, on the weekends or once a week, commit to actually looking at some other NCLEX questions, at least 3 or 4 every week, in addition to your assignment. That's just so that you can still gain more understanding. You're looking at the topics and you're just staying, becoming more familiar with the topics. But complete the required number for the assignment. Complete 50 questions and upload the PDF. Do not turn in a screenshot. You can't grade the screenshot. Okay. So this is just, again, letting you look at the different, the NCLEX questions. So you click on it. Once you complete it, it asks you to save it. So usually this print screen pops up, but you can go in and change it to say save as a PDF. Save it as a PDF, because if you don't save it as a PDF, a lot of times we'll click on what you uploaded and it will not open up. So save it as a PDF. Okay. NCLEX question submission must be for the number of questions required on a single submission. If it's 50 questions are required, complete 50 questions. Don't complete 100 questions and upload that. Now you can do those other 50 questions on your own time, but for that assignment, complete the 50 questions. Once submitted, the score that you submit, that's the score that you will receive. Commit to not submitting anything less than 78%. Remember, you can repeat those questions as many times as you like to obtain that highest score. You are the master and controller of what that grade that you will receive for the NCLEX. Okay. NCLEX questions. Utilize the course text and online resources referenced in your course modules in the weeks that they're due. Percentage scores are applied to total assignment points available. Completion documentation is required. Screenshots are not acceptable. So download the PDF, save it as a PDF, and that's what you're going to upload for that assignment. So once we click on it, we see what you got. If you submit the required, please submit the required number of questions. So if 50 is required and you have 40 correct, you receive the 40 points, which is 80%. If you submit 100 questions with 50 correct, you will receive the 25 points or 50%. So turn in the correct amount. So doing more doesn't benefit you for the assignment. You can do more on your own time, but it's not related to the assignment. There are no bonus points for getting more correct or doing more. So for that assignment, just complete that required amount. Okay, again, if the assignment asks for 50 questions, complete 50 questions. Multiple sets added up to is not completing the 50 questions. It has to be that 50 questions within that one assignment. Likewise, do not add more questions hoping to get at least 50 correct. Your score will be the percentage that you submitted. Remember, we don't give 100 meds out, 100 pills, hoping that 50 of them are the correct medications, okay? We don't do that. CJ Sims, you don't have to turn in any for this class, but the classes that you do, you can turn in that screenshot because it's set up like that. Okay. The paper assignments will guide the development of the professional goals relative to the profession. Here it is, another view. When you look at that first view, this is what it looks like. But then you click on it and it opens up and it tells you all the assignment details. Look at them, look at that rubric. Make sure you have everything there. This is the rubric here. It says first paragraph, a summary with the key points. So look at it and grade it. Be true. And then if not, we following over here, rework it. Do not turn it in because you want your best work to be graded. So you do want to use those resources that are within the 5-year time frame. Remember, for any of your papers that you're turning in for this course or any other course, if you have completed a similar or the same paper, remember, if you turn it in exactly as it is, you're going to have that 100% plagiarism score. And then that comes up as academic dishonesty. So you do want to make sure that you're citing inside of your paper, giving reference to those things as they should, and that will help with your score. You want to use this Purdue OWL is really good with helping. You want to make sure that your research is relevant to what the topic is, making sure that what you're talking about in the paper is what the instructions were giving you to talk about. You want to summarize those key points. Give your rationale for the argument in your own words. And then, of course, you want to cite those references. You have 5 references. Make sure that you are actually citing them. Okay, just stopping to make sure I don't have any questions in the chat. I'll pause for just a moment. Have any questions? We're almost there. All righty. We'll keep on nosing. Remember those sites that we stay away from. Okay, so questions for thought as you continue your journey to being that nurse and providing that best care you can for your patients. And for NCLEX one time, taking your HESIs and passing them in all of your courses. Just keep in mind, you do want to be prepared for these exams. You do want to be prepared when you gain your licensure and so that you can provide that best care. So think about the things that have worked for you in the past, reviewing even those exam tips. For example, some students, they need to read the question 3 times before they even look at the answer choices. Meeting one-on-one, whatever it is, reviewing those classroom recordings, make sure that you are prepared. What concepts that are covered in homework assignments that you find challenging or difficult, because those are the concepts that you might want to start with first when you're reviewing for that exam. And I think this is our last slide, you all. Let's see. Are there any questions? That was our last slide. Are there any questions? You can come off mute and tell me. If not, we're gonna keep on moving. We do have a 10-minute break and we're gonna take, so let's push on. Of course, if you need to use the restroom, put a message in the chat. Make sure you're on camera, you all. All right, here, let's see here. Let's look real quick in our course and then we'll cover content just to make sure that we're clear on these. I know you all probably are. Let's just scan this just to make sure. Let's go back over here. Let's share the screen here. Okay, so you do have this. Let me read this announcement here. And this is in your courses. Dean Brown posted them in all of the courses. Opportunity to change your schedule. Let's just make sure. So please review your schedules as they are published in the student portal. Please look for overlaps. Let me make sure. Okay, move us over here. She thinks she has caught all overlaps. Requests will be honored on the first come, first served basis. No request will be honored that comes in prior to this notice being published. So if you submitted something prior to today at midnight, then you need to submit another request. So please email, this is Dean Brown, from the course you're asking to change. So make sure that you're using your Canvas mail for this. This allows her to keep track of you and your requests. If you're requesting more than a single course change, then you need to go to each course and send that email from each course. Make sure your request is what you want. Once she confirms the switch in an email to you and the registrars, then it will become permanent. There will be no multiple switches due to overlooking how the chosen day. So the only thing right here, she just said, make sure whatever you're requesting, make sure you look at it, triple check it, just to make sure that's what you really need. Because there are others that are asking to move around as well. Please pay attention to the attendance policy. It is enforced. If you schedule yourself in a conflict at any point of your turn, you will be moved back to your original section and not be allowed to switch. It is your responsibility to know your schedule. So she will not be checking for conflict. So just look at how you're assigned, look at your schedules, and figure out if you need to change or not. Here it says all changes must occur this week. Please send your request to Dean Brown by 9 p.m. Eastern by Friday, which is 2 days from now, to have your request considered, no exceptions. And so these are the days and times that this class is offered. There's no guarantee that there's a seat in any of these open sections, but she did place everything that's available here. So if you turned a notice in, if you went to your Canvas mail and sent something to her yesterday before this was actually published, you need to go back in and make sure that follow what she has here is what I'm just trying to say. Let's see here. Modules. When you go to modules, you should be able, this is your resources. These are your resources here. This should be the list of them. Well, that's not the list. Go back to modules. Make sure I'm in the right course. Hold on, y'all. I'm not sure why I'm seeing that. Oh, studio resources. Here you go. I'm clicking the wrong thing. Okay. So make sure that your textbooks follow, and this is on your syllabus, so you can actually get your syllabus and just make sure, because the addition must be correct. Because if you have the incorrect addition, we need to send an email to the campus dean and include me in it as well, so that we can get the correct addition loaded up in your Canvas. Doesn't happen often, but it does happen. That some type of way something wasn't refreshed or something. And about your instructor, here it is. This is where you can find all of your instructors, our contact information, and also Dean Brown's information. And I am going to stop here for just a recording. All right, so community-oriented and community-based nursing, they are not the same thing. So make sure that you gain understanding of that. Community-oriented nursing is oriented around the community and the population. It is primarily focused on health promotion rather than the illness itself. So community-oriented considers the whole group of people, not just one person. So community-based, then guess what? It's specifically based on that one person. So community-based nursing is a setting-specific practice in which care is provided for usually that sick individual or that family that we are, taking care of. The emphasis is on acute and chronic care. It is on managing that disease process for that individual. So community-oriented is the whole group. It's the entire community. And then community-based, you're specifically focused on that individual. So which one is based on the individual, community-based or community-oriented? Let me hear from you. Community-based is based on that specific person, okay? And then oriented is the entire population. So Healthy People 2030, I know you all have been hearing about Healthy People 2030 for a while now. It covers everything from A to Z. It is a set of data-driven national objectives, and it's for everyone. It wants, the whole framework is to improve the health of all Americans. And it considers where you live. It talks about water, air, disease processes, chronic diseases, but it's a framework to help improve the health of all Americans so that we can all live and thrive, so that we hopefully disease processes are prevented. They alert us, okay, flu season is coming, there's a measles outbreak here. They go ahead and let us know about all things in hope of even preventing disease and disability and injuries from happening. They encourage people during the summertime. You see all these drink water campaigns. And so it is encouraging us to, drink more water so we can be hydrated, so that it prevents, hyper getting sunburned, staying out of the sun, putting on your sunscreen. And so it does consider that. So in a nutshell, it says promoting healthy development, healthy behaviors, drinking more water, going in and getting your flu shot, for everyone. And the thing about it is, Healthy People 2030, it does it based on all ages, all life stages. So you can't go wrong. It's a beautiful framework that they have created. You do need to know. So anyone can tell me, what are the 3 levels of prevention before I name them? What are the 3 levels of prevention? Primary. What's the other one? What's the other 2?
Secondary and tertiary.
Secondary and tertiary.
Got it. Primary, we are preventing a problem before it ever occurs. So prevention can take the place of education, and you have education campaigns about seatbelt safety, playground safety, but it's providing that information. That information can be word of mouth, us having a conversation. It could be a radio announcement. It could be, let me see here. Someone's not on mute. Make sure you're on mute. You always hearing something in the background. So it could be in any format, but it is preventing the problem, whether or not that's a chronic disease, whether or not that's an injury, any type of the deficit before it ever occurs. Now we said secondary. So that is screening. We are little detectors. We're trying to determine or detect if there is an injury, if there's a problem, if there's a disease process. We're trying to detect or determine if something is there. So screening can take the format of a questionnaire as well. We're going to talk about lead poisoning as we get into the term, but now they go ahead and give you like this questionnaire where you go in and you answer these questions. That's screening to determine if that person is exposed to high levels of lead. If we do a TB skin test, what is that? Primary or secondary prevention?
Secondary.
Secondary, because remember we said secondary is screening for early identification so that we can do the early treatment of that condition. But secondary, we're trying to screen, trying to detect or determine if something is there. That something could be, have that person been exposed to tuberculosis? If that person is exposed to high levels of lead. Now, a flu shot, is that primary or secondary?
Primary.
Primary, because we're trying to prevent a problem before it ever occurs. All right. And then tertiary, it is treating or managing an existing condition. So this person has something, a broken arm, they have back pain, they have diabetes, they have something, a condition, and it's we're treating them, we're trying to manage it. Now that management and that treatment does not always have to be medicine. So it could be a non-pharmacological agent. It could be therapy, exercises. I'm going to pause. So let's review again those 3 levels of intervention. We have primary. We're preventing that disease process. We're preventing that injury. Whatever that problem is, we are preventing it before it ever occurs. So we're providing information, education on prevention of childhood injuries, for example, seatbelts, helmets, playground safety. That includes looking at the playgrounds for safety. We're preventing those sports-related injuries. We're giving that information. We're doing those things so that there will not be a problem. So there will not be a broken arm. There will not be sunburn. So no one will be dehydrated. So secondary prevention is we are screening for early detection. We're trying to early identify if there is an injury, if there's a disease process. So we screen. The example that we gave was the TB skin test because we're trying to screen and see if we're trying to early identify if someone has been exposed to that tuberculin bacteria. We may ask questions in a form of a questionnaire. Again, we're trying to screen to determine that it early identify whether or not a person has been exposed to something. An x-ray, a person has fallen down and their hip hurts. We do that x-ray. We're screening. We're trying to early identify if that person has a broken bone. But then we go to tertiary prevention. This is where we're treating or managing an existing condition. So we did the x-ray, we did that screening, they have a broken bone. So this person goes to surgery and now they're headed home for therapy. That hip has been replaced, but that person is getting therapy, they're getting medications, they're being treated, and they're managing that existing condition. Okay, those are the three levels. Tertiary could be medications, it could be non-pharmacologic, it could be that therapy that we mentioned. Okay, let's talk about conjunctivitis. Acute conjunctivitis is the inflammation of the conjunctiva, the mucous membranes that lines those eyelids. That conjunctivitis can be caused by bacteria, viruses, irritants, or toxins. Okay, so bacteria, it can be caused by bacteria, viruses, allergens, irritants, or toxins. The bacterial conjunctivitis is more likely to begin in one eye and it can spread to that other eye. It's commonly called the pink eye. People are kind of most familiar with the word pink eye. Bacterial conjunctivitis is infectious. So we want to encourage hand washing, avoid touching the healthy eye, and then we're treating it with antibiotic drops. We want to encourage the people to use the drops as directed. And also, they're usually able to return to school 24 hours after the antibiotic drops have actually started. Okay. So it is most likely to spread from one eye to the other. We do want to encourage that good hand hygiene and washing those hands. And it's caused by the bacteria, the viruses, the allergens, and the toxins. And once they get those antibiotic drops 24 hours after they have started on those, they can return to school. Okay. ADHD is the inattention or distractibility, increased gross motor activity, or that impulsivity is usually associated with underperformance in the school setting. That person may have low self-esteem because they might have those poor interactions with others, and as a result of that, they may have that low self-esteem. Sometimes people take medications for it. They're taught coping skills, and then sometimes environments have to be adjusted. For example, placing that child in the front of the room. You want to remind those teachers to give those clear, short directions rather than several steps all at once. And just remind the teachers that they may have to repeat those instructions, those clear, short instructions or directions. We want to provide those rest breaks. And we do not want to limit outdoor physical activity as a punishment. Because they're growing children, they need that physical activity. We actually encourage it. Okay, so let's talk about the 5 functions of the family. We have financial, health, reproductive, socialization, and affective. Failure to meet these functions leads to dysfunction, strife, and crisis. A strong contributing factor to future substance abuse, anxiety, depression, work absenteeism, unsafe sexual practices is a dysfunctional family setting. Family is our first and most important safety net and social support system. So those 5 functions of the family: financial planning for that future, making good financial decisions and providing that housing and insurance. So we have health, teaching those healthy behaviors, health maintenance. We have that child that's newly diagnosed diabetic, teaching them how to check that glucose, or an adult. We have reproductive, and we have socialization, raising those children to fit into society, to become productive and responsible citizens of society. And then affective, creating that sense of identity and belonging through affection, love, time together, and then those bonding activities. It could be something as simple as playing cards, having a bingo night in the home, or Taco Tuesday, or Hamburger Friday, or Fish on Friday. But those are the key five functions, or five functions of the family. Okay. Let's talk about resiliency and vulnerability. So resiliency is our ability, that bounce backness that we have, the ability to pivot, to identify that you're in a crisis or something is going on, and also identify what can we do about it, and then move forward with those solutions. Resiliency is influenced by early life experiences. Okay. Negative events in childhood that are not dealt with, counseling or other approaches, that can decrease our resiliency, that can decrease our ability to bounce back, to identify, well, hey, I got this issue going on. But then we acknowledge that, but then we move forward to seek out solutions. Resiliency reduces, resiliency increases. Let me restate that. Resiliency decreases or reduces our vulnerability to certain risks, because we have that ability to bounce back. Resiliency decreases or reduces our vulnerability to certain risks. Okay. Vulnerability can be reduced or reversed by increasing our resilience. So I just said it the opposite in another way. I just restated it. So vulnerability can be reduced or decreased or reversed by increasing our resilience. So resiliency reduces our vulnerability to certain risks, because we're able to quickly identify, got an issue, and we find some solutions. Vulnerability has many aspects. It often comes from a feeling of lack of power, limited control. Members of vulnerable populations often have multiple illnesses, with each affecting the other. So it is key that those individuals are resilient, because it decreases their vulnerability to certain risks. They, for example, you have a newly diagnosed diabetic, and they run out of supplies to monitor their glucose. They realize they're out. They seek out resources to identify someone or an organization that can help get those resources that they need, so they're able to monitor their glucose levels and keep those glucose levels safely in a safe range. So our older population, our veterans, our very old and young, and substance users, they are our most vulnerable populations. Vulnerability to poor health does not mean that some people have personal deficiencies. Rather, it results from the interacting effects of many outside and inside factors over which people have little or no control. For example, we did have some, I think has it been like a year or so now, where diabetics were a vulnerable population, because their medication was found to also help with weight control. So as a result of that, some diabetics were the medication was limited, because and medications are like that. They are created and designed for one thing, but we realize that they can also be given for something else, and safely. And so as a result of that, diabetes medications were kind of hard to find at one time. So it put those patients at making them more vulnerable. So our very young, our veterans, anyone that's under 18, because remember, a person that's under 18 solely relies on an adult to provide for them. They may have the children that's 16 or 17, they may have a part-time job, but still they're under that age of 18. And so they really are considered vulnerable because they really do solely rely on someone else providing for them. And that provision includes shelter, food, getting them to their doctor's appointments, and like we said, our war veterans, they are considered vulnerable populations also.